Hey everyone, welcome to another interview in the Upheaval to Up-Level interview series. I'm delighted to have you here, and I'm having such a great time interviewing so many brilliant and courageous people who are willing to share their journey from upheaval to up-level with you and with me so we can be inspired when we hit those patches too. I have with me today Elena Zanfei, who was born and raised in Italy, coming to the U.S. when she was 10 years old. Elena is a former IT manager with extensive corporate experience, and she also spent more than 30 years in the personal development in her efforts to help heal the pain and scars of what she calls her own traumatic and dramatic past. Elena entered the field of coaching and found it to be a perfect complement to her own inner journey, having gone from mere struggling to survive to a triumphantly conscious and peaceful life. Combining all her skills, she started her business InVision Coaching, which is dedicated to helping individuals reach a level of personal and professional growth that brings profound and positive change. So she's going to talk to us today about when you lose everything, you find yourself. I'm interested in that. Welcome, Elena.
Mm-hmm. Oh, thanks for having me, Janine. I'm so glad to be here. Appreciate it.
Yeah, nice. I've known you for a while now, and I've seen your ups and downs and how you've managed them, and I know how hard it's been for you, and it's been a beautiful sight to behold, especially talking with you now and knowing where you are. Share with us, if you would, just what the nature of your upheaval and what that was like for you.
Absolutely. So the nature of my upheaval this time around, because I'm no stranger to it, I had come home from a business weekend trip, and my boyfriend of 17 years basically decided that it was time for us to end our relationship. And so in an instant, I lost him. I lost the two dogs that we shared together. I had one dog that had just previously passed away. She was a golden retriever, Bella, so about 2 months prior to that, and lost my home and everything. And what's particularly important, because it may not sound like a lot to some people, I don't know, to me it was a lot, because the way my childhood was, it really made me be the type of person that really relishes and cherishes and actually needs security, because I never had security as a child. So my home that he and I had purchased and I had helped gut and completely remodel and be this sanctuary that was for me was my security. So it was very frightening for me to be all of a sudden faced with having to leave this space, having to leave these two dogs that are my children for all intents and purpose. I don't have children, so I really put a lot of my love into, my clients, my friends, and my dogs. My dogs were like my children. And of course, a relationship that I had been in for 17 years, although it wasn't a perfect relationship, again, it really met that inner, deeper need that I had of security and communion and companionship and all of that. I can honestly say that brought me to such a low. It brought me to a place I hadn't been in a really, really long time. I had spent many of my years in my 20s being suicidal. I didn't have the skills, and I didn't have a way to cope with the way my life was at the time, the family that I was in, the trauma I was experiencing. And so because of that, I was suicidal. I just didn't know how to deal with my life. And I, for a very long time, prayed that God would take me, being born, raised Catholic. I knew that I couldn't take my own life, but every night I would cry myself to sleep and just pray that God would take me. And then something clicked, and I decided that, all right, I don't think he's going to do that. So I had a different prayer. And the prayer was that he would bring me the information and the knowledge and the resources to help me learn to transcend my challenges so that I could live in the life that I had. And so that's kind of the road that I've been on. And I can honestly tell you that it had been a very, very long time since I had those thoughts. But when everything that I loved was being stripped away from me, I honestly got to a place where I thought, I can't do this again. I can't do this anymore. And in those dark hours, that very first week where I slept downstairs in the guest room, obviously didn't sleep. I cried constantly. I honestly felt I was going through a cycle of I almost felt obviously felt angry for what he was doing, but I also felt like I've done so much to pull myself out, and here I am again. How can I get through this again? I almost felt defeated. I felt like it doesn't matter what I do. I'm always back to this place. That just that fear, that those thoughts that the ego throws up. And so I was there for a very, very long time. It took me a while to pull out of that. So I packed up my house room by room, box by box, by myself. And in that process, I was grieving. I was trying to help myself detach from something that was very powerfully important to me. And, of course, my dogs that I knew I was going to have to say goodbye to because I didn't have a place to go to and would not be able to take them with me. And not only that, but he was being really not a nice person in the process. It wasn't like I had this very compassionate, kind person that understood what this was doing to me. I think that he entered a phase where he was very stoic and very detached, perhaps as a way to protect himself. I don't know, but that made the pain even more intense.
Right. I've often said that when we go through something like this, it's not only do we not have the person to comfort us when something is harsh, when life is hard, the person that we would normally go to for comfort is actually the problem, and that makes it doubly hard.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It's like, wow, this is the person that I thought was going to be my companion, my support, my confidant, and now he is the person that's inflicting the pain on me. So it was a very intense, but it had so many hooks to my past, to previous relationships, to previous experiences, and maybe that's why it pulled me down so deep, because like I said, I felt like I had done so much work that I just felt so defeated. But here's the interesting thing, because I have been a student of personal development for 32 years, and as you were talking about me, it just kind of made me realize, wow, I really have been working on me for a long time, because I think that when we work to change all our inner patterns and, all of that stuff that was ingrained in us through childhood, it becomes a lifelong process. It isn't something that you just take on for a while and then you kind of reach a point. It really does become a lifelong process, because the more I learn, the more I realize there's more to learn. I had this little part of me that while there was a big part of me, let's say 90% of me was literally dying, wanted to die, didn't know how I was going to make it through one day, there was this little part of me, a little part, maybe I'll call it consciousness, maybe I'll call it soul, that could at times step outside of it and see some divine providence, some maybe bigger reason for why this was happening. And
nice.
It was really interesting to experience that, and also a part of me that recognized that I had been here before. I had been here before in this deep, deep sorrow, in this wanting to die feeling, and that I had worked my way through it, and surely I could do that again. And I held on to that. I held on to those 10% moments. Then I would fall back into the depth of despair, and I wasn't eating, I wasn't sleeping. My business basically came to a screeching halt, other than the clients that I already had in place that I had developed, great bond with, and they understood, and I was able to be vulnerable even while I was supporting them. And it really was a beautiful thing, because as I was supporting them, I was able to pull into a different part of me that did give me a little bit of reprieve from my own pain while I was in conversations with them. So that was an interesting thing to go through as well.
Yeah, I can see that. So I want to hear more about this little part of you that caught glimpses. It sounded like it was just a little glimpse, a little blip from the universe going, it's going to be okay. See this? You have to go back down for a little while into the depths. Yeah. There's light out here.
Right.
See it?
Right.
Yeah.
So having been a coach and having done a lot of personal development, I knew what some of the tools were for overcoming what I was going through. And the first thing, obviously, being self-love, self-care. And it's very hard for somebody who has been abused previously like me. That whole concept of self-love and self-care can be a very muddy subject because we get, without going into a lot of detail, we get a lot of conflicting messages in our minds about it. But I knew that in order for me to pull myself out, I had to pull out all the stops, and that's exactly what I did. I doubled down. I meditated every single day. I journaled. I allowed myself to cry. I reached out to friends. I pulled away from friends. Like whatever I knew to do or felt that I needed to do, I did it. And I'm also fortunate that I had the space in which to do that. And I understand that there may be some people that are listening to this that they don't have the luxury of taking time out of their lives, so to speak, to go into the sorrow and really be with it and really process it. But to the degree that somebody can, that's really, I think, what helped me be this far along, just a year into this experience. And the more I was meditating and journaling and really feeling into my inner child and the wounds that I have there and how deeply this particular incident really tapped into that inner child, like some of the messages that she had received. It was very powerful, but the things that I was doing, really listening, being present to that, meditating, connecting with my higher power, my higher source, God, and really realizing that this event is an event that surely it's going to define who I am, but it doesn't define me forever. In other words, it will change the trajectory of my life, but maybe that's exactly why it happened. And that's what I started to see. I started to listen to Conversations with God. I had kind of listened to it a little bit years back, but I really started listening to them. Every single day I was listening to something. I was reading. I was really, like I said, pulling out all the stops. And in those books, Neil Donald Walsh's Conversations with God, there were just so many things that I was hearing, again, for the first time, that really just resonated at a deep, deep soul level. And I began to see my situation and myself very differently than I had in the past. I began to see that, we all attract from where we are, and that maybe part of why this was happening was so that I could be set free, so to speak, to be a bigger version of myself, because the relationship I was in was not one that was, I think there's relationships that really nurture us and feed us and expand us, and then there's some that they just kind of hold us down in one way or another, or we hold ourselves back for wanting to remain in that union that maybe isn't the best union possible. And that's what it was for me. And so I began to have realizations and revelations to the fact that maybe part of this stepping away or letting go was really about letting go so that I could expand, so that I could soar, fly, be more. And of course, I knew it would take a while to get there, but I was beginning to see that, and that was a message and a belief that was really helping me a lot.
Nice. Yeah. You can't rearrange like a brick wall, right? You cannot build a new brick wall unless you break apart the old one if you're going to use the brick, right? So it has to break down so that you can build something new. So it happens all the time. It's just we think it's not a normal process, or so, I have anyway. It feels like it's something, quote, wrong, but what if it's really right? Right.
And that's what I began to, I kind of began to have those thoughts and ask those questions. What if this was really orchestrated by, my higher self or my God that, was kind of taking me out of an oppressive situation and putting me into a place where I could heal at a much deeper level fundamentally by really addressing some core things that I maybe never really got to, which was that really, really deep sense of self-love, self-understanding, self-acceptance, and really recognizing how in doing that, looking back on the relationship, recognizing how many things I had, quote unquote, settled or turned a blind eye to. Like, in other words, because I wasn't truly 100% loving myself, I was making certain things okay that really aren't okay. I was not expecting to be respected, and I really wasn't expecting and really almost demanding, not in a mean way, but like I always tell my clients, when you really, really love yourself, and now I'm there, I can say it with certainty, when you really, really love yourself, you won't accept somebody who mistreats you. You won't accept something that is not good for you. You just don't, because you love yourself too much. And it's, it's a place that we all have to go to. We set a bar higher based on how we feel about ourselves internally. As we feel greater love, greater compassion, we then want to take better care of ourselves. And therefore, the things we then allow into our lives are going to align with that, because we will be aware and in tune with those choices.
Right. Yeah, there's so many things when we're in that upheaval. I mean, the question is, what is it time to let go of? What needs to go away? And
that's
what
a good
prime
question.
opportunity. Yeah, and to let go. And what I'm thinking is, like, even people, sometimes people don't make the cut into this new phase of our life. We need new people that match this new energy of whatever it is that we're doing next. Yeah.
And it's interesting, because I think what I shared with you was that I lost everything. Oh, and then just to put the icing on the cake was that 4 months, or actually 5 months after this happened, my mother passed away. And that was so hard, because I was already raw. I was already so vulnerable, so wounded, and to lose her was like the last straw. And as a matter of fact, there was a part when I noticed that she, when we knew she was getting sicker, I was praying, dear God, please don't do this. Don't take her too, because there's just way too much loss. I also didn't mention that my second dog was put down in July. So I lost him permanently, because he's now gone, and I was very, very attached to him. So there was just so much stripping away that I was left so raw and so vulnerable and so I can tell you that there were moments I felt like a little girl, curled up in a corner, not wanting to even get out of bed. That's how I felt, because everything was being stripped away. But when I look back on it now, I'm beginning to see the things that I had surrounded myself with that I thought defined me. In other words, I was who I was because of them. And what I realize now is that I obviously am not because of them. I am who I am in spite of them, and that I can recreate my life the way that I want it to now. But it's a process, it's a day by day, doing the things that I know that I need to do, and tapping into my higher messages, and tapping it into my connection with God, and realizing that this isn't just little me here with the weight of the world. This is me, part of a big world, part of something much bigger, part of a collective thing that's going on, and that surely that is there for me as well to tap into,
Mm-hmm. It's occurring to me as you're talking that it isn't just the loss of boyfriend, dogs, or even mom, but even the undercurrent of all that is a loss of identity.
Yes.
Who am I?
Yes.
If I'm not if I'm not girlfriend or I'm not daughter, who am I?
Right. Yeah, because we surround our lives with things that, make us comfortable and make us feel like we have some kind of purpose. After of course, when I got taken out of my home and I was brought into my parents' home because I have nowhere else to go, I kind of knew, okay, God's putting me in a place where now I am of service, and I am here for my mom, and that was my purpose. But then after she died, it was like, okay, here I am again. It's just me, now what? And so it's almost like an ebb and flow. It's an ebb and flow of feelings and emotions. And I have to tell you that, like I said, today is the year anniversary. I still go there. As a matter of fact, last night, recognizing that today was going to be a year, last night I became sad all of a sudden, and it happens periodically. And I started crying, and I was just experiencing sorrow and sadness. I was missing my beautiful home. I was missing my dogs. I just go to those places, which I'm sure it's very natural. And and I was just, and then I saw a picture of my mom, and I was just like, wow, I just missed so many things. And then a friend of mine sent me a video, and I watched it, and it was funny. And 5 minutes later, I find myself laughing. And it just dawned on me how volatile we are, like how easily we can slip in and out of one place. And it really has a lot to do with where we put our focus. And so I went to sleep without crying. But here's one thing that I am doing, and that I think is very important, and that is I honor where I am when I am. In other words, if I feel like I need to cry, I cry. If I feel that I'm angry, I allow my anger to be. If I'm experiencing joy, I relish the joy. In other words, I've gotten to a place where I'm finally able to just be with where I am, who I am, be it good or bad, and it's all good, meaning I'm just willing to accept it. I'm able to accept it. So much so that when I was going through the deepest grieving process, I had a friend who could not understand how her mentor, the person that she looks up to, could be so low and be so depressed and she was actually struggling with me. And we actually got into a conflict, and I said to her, I'm sorry, but this is where I am. And if you can't accept that this is where I am, then maybe we don't need to be friends any longer. And I saw that as a really big part of me taking a stand for who I am, taking a stand for, by God, I'm hurting, and I am really, really broken right now, and I need to be here. Do not pull me out of it, because that's what people are going to want to do. They're going to want to say, oh, don't feel that way, or, oh, you shouldn't feel that way. Oh, it's time. You need to focus on this. You need to move forward. They're going to, because obviously they don't want to see you stuck. They don't want to see you hurting, so they do the only thing they know how to do, which is to pull you out of it. And I don't believe that that's healthy. I think that sometimes you need to stay in it and process it and be with it. And I know it's going to sound weird, but like really love yourself in the process of the grief. Like allow it. Give your tears the honor and the space and the time they deserve, because they're part of you. And we are not happy or sad. We're both. We are people that are ultimately everything all wrapped up in one. We're good and bad, happy, sad, clear and cloudy. And I think that getting to a place for me where I am now that I'm able to just recognize all of it and allow all of it, I think that's what's helping me move forward with a very different, just a different outlook on life.
That's beautiful. Pain is the great transformer, and it's hard to allow it, but we have to allow it to do its work.
Exactly. And I think that we are so wired to push it away. You know, a lot of the clients that I coach, one of the hardest things for them to do is allow their tears. People step over that all the time. You know, they'll push it away, or they get busy, or they'll make light or a joke out of something that's really serious or really sad. And I won't do that. I won't do that for myself, and I will not support people in doing that. I will support people in just being with what is right now. What's the truth about where you are? What's the truth about where I am? And you know what? That can change. That can change tomorrow. But if tomorrow you call me up and I'm in a really particularly sad space, I will tell you I'm in a really sad space right now. And it's okay. I'm here, but I won't be here forever. Why? How do I know that? Because I've been here before, and I didn't stay there then, and I won't stay there now.
Nice. That's the good news.
That is the good news.
Yeah,
Good news.
yeah. I love this, Elena. The things that you're talking about are so important. To not push things away, to be with them, to allow the great transformation, to know we'll come out on the other side.
Yeah.
It's just so important for people to hear, because we do minimize it in our culture. Not only do we minimize it, we almost shame it. That if you're not up and productive all the time, there's something wrong with you. And
I agree.
Really
I agree. Yeah. We have a really hard time just allowing ourselves to be where we are. We have a hard time being okay with sadness, sorrow, anger, whatever. We always want to put on this happy face. And, how many times when you say to somebody, oh, how are you doing? Our automatic response is, oh, I'm fine. When their whole world could be falling apart, What I say is, don't say that. Say, you know what? I'm really struggling right now. And watch people's response. They don't know what to do with that. You know what I mean? It's like, I know. Oh my gosh, honestly, because we have a nice life. I remember when I first started in personal development, I heard this concept, and it really has stuck with me. We're taught to be nice. And nice comes from the word nisius from Latin, which means to be ignorant, to pretend to not know. And think about how many times we act nice. Play nice. Like the little girl says, Mommy, why does Uncle Bill smell like alcohol all the time? Be nice. Be nice. That person, So we tend to always cover the truth about what is. And I'm not I'm not saying that you should go and, purposely be mean to somebody in your niceness, in your quest to be truthful. But what I'm saying is be truthful when it comes to who you are, where you are, what you're feeling. Because I believe that when you do that, you are honoring yourself at the core level. Think about it. If there's an inner child inside of us, which I believe that we all have an inner child, if we are not willing to allow that little child to cry or to be angry or be sad and to be with it when it's experiencing that, what are we saying? Oh, you're silly. We are in essence dismissing that part of us, which in essence we are dismissing ourselves. Right? If you aren't willing to just be with it and allow it, you are by virtue making it wrong. So I think that's the biggest gift is just to be present to whatever is.
Right. And as we start being present with whatever is, we start coming out of it a little bit, the confusion. I think that's part of the process of coming out of it. And
absolutely.
Right? And so what else have you noticed as you've started pulling out of it? What kind of things did you notice?
Well, what I notice is that I feel better about myself. And I think I feel better about myself because I've learned to love myself. And again, even just letting myself cry is an act of love towards myself because I'm not making that part wrong. So I'm feeling better about myself. I'm becoming hopeful for the future. I'm also beginning to I put together a new vision board, and it's so beautiful. And it's got all the things that I want to manifest in my future. A bed and breakfast and a retreat in Italy, a true soulmate. And I don't mean, what I mean by soulmate is somebody who really sees the world through the same eyes that I do, and who has a kind heart and a beautiful, wants to do good on the planet in whatever way, so that he really gets me and who I am. To somebody who is respectful and kind. So I'm looking towards the future now rather than looking back. So I would say that where I'm at now is 90% forward, 10% back. And I have to tell you, there is still the 10% back because in some ways I really did have a lot of beautiful things in my life. My home was gorgeous. My dogs are beautiful. But I'm more geared towards that 90% forward thinking, looking ahead, working on my body, working on really creating the type of business that I want that's really aligned with my soul, looking for ways that I can touch people's lives even more than I have in the past, based on where I've been, based on this last year. Like, it has taught me different things. It has shown me different things. And now, of course, who I become as a result of that is going to be a little bit different, right? Because we are always growing and always evolving and always a sum total of our experiences. So this past year is going to be part of who I am going forward. So there's just enormous hope. There's joy looking at what's possible, looking at some of the things, looking at aligning my life again with a partner that is very, very much the same type of person that I am, rather than having to explain and hold myself back because I was in a relationship that wasn't quite there. Then now I'm looking forward to a relationship that's really in par with some of the, my value systems and my ideas and my philosophies, and that's exciting. That's really exciting. And just looking at possibilities and what's ahead. That's where I see myself now, is in this really creative process of life. And, here we are. I almost feel like I'm entering the spring of my life, right? I was in this really, 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 really bad winter, and everything died and a lot of things went away. And none of those will come back. But now is spring. And I feel like the buds are going to open and new plants are going to emerge and new opportunities are going to present themselves. And I'm excited about that. About that.
So it's like you've changed yards. Like I bought a house, right? And this is the first spring. I'm in this new space. And there's all kinds of things popping up that I didn't know were in the ground. So you're in a new space too. So the new buds and new flowers and new things, it's like, oh, there's another one. Right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's like, oh, what's that? And, and also being free to go out and explore different things. I'm getting involved with social groups, meetup groups, things like that. Just the doors that are going to open, the relationships and when I speak relationships, I'm not just meaning male, but just friendships and where those might lead. See, this has shown me that there's always movement and always momentum. Even when we have to hit rock bottom and we have to lie there for a while, life moves forward. It will always bring something new because that's just how the universe works. It's always being recreated. And because we're creating it with our thoughts and our intentions and our beliefs, I feel that my future is going to be amazing because I've spent a year now really working on that part of me and have eliminated the stressors and some of the low-level energy that was holding me down. It's no longer there, right?
Yeah,
so now I can, So, it's all good. I feel like I'm in a really good space, and I'm excited for the future. And while parts of me still grieves the losses and I still want to hold on to that, I don't stay there very long. I recognize that, I really truly believe that when God closes a door, he opens another, and more than likely that other one is going to be even better. Something dies so that something new can be born. And typically when we are born again, we're stronger. It's stronger the next time around and the next time around.
Right.
So,
and I think it's not by accident. I think that these upheavals are designed in life so that we can.
Yes.
Because left to ourselves, we would not subject ourselves to like what you just went through. Which is, no, thank you, I'm not signing up for that.
Right. It's funny you should say that, Janine, because I was listening to Conversations with God kind of proposes the concept that, you create it. So he was saying, you actually brought this on yourself. And I was a little angry when I heard that. I was like, are you effing kidding me? Really? I put myself here? Are you crazy? There's no way in hell I would have put myself in this intense pain. And so you're right. But when you kind of fast forward, what if I did? What if there was a bigger part of me, a wiser part of me that really knew, because God sees the whole life in totality. We only see it in one space and time, right? So it's hard for me to say, it's hard for me to be in this depth of sorrow and look forward 5 years into what's possible, which is something that, could be like enormously even more beautiful. We have a hard time doing that. right? But what if my higher self, what if my soul in communion with God knew that and was always part of me that was calling me to move forward, to let go, to move on. Right?
Yeah. Yeah. One part of us kicking and dragging the other, kicking and screaming.
Definitely, most definitely, yes.
Yeah.
And now I almost feel like my mom too is in heaven, looking down on me and helping me. And I do believe that, you know, that there's energies around us that will support us and that will be with us as we move forward if we believe and trust, and I do. So I feel very guided, and I think that I've always had trust, but I think my trust factor is through the roof now. I just so believe that if I just keep putting one foot in front of the other, do the things I know that I need to do, and trust that the next path will reveal itself, that I'll be okay. I'll be okay.
Okay. I think you will too. And with that,
I
think we're going to end our time here. It goes so fast, doesn't it?
It does.
And
it goes really fast.
Yeah, but I want to give you a moment to tell folks about this ebook that you put together, A Way Out of Sorrow, 8 Simple Steps to Get You Through Your Darkest Times. What an appropriate thing for you to have written. So tell us about that.
Well, and I actually started writing that when I was in the deepest pit. It was like there's a part of me that says, okay, well, it was actually my coaching community. Okay, Elena, how can you use this to serve others? And I forced myself, and I was literally crying as I wrote it, to write down what were the things I was doing to help myself. And so that's what these 8 steps are. What were the exact things I was doing that were helping me make it through one day, and then the next day, and then the next day. And I think that it's a simple read. I didn't want to go into too much detail. Sometimes I think simple is better. It's a simple read that if somebody's just where I was, or just in just a real, sorrowful place or sad place, that they can pick this up and read and even put 2 or 3 of these into place. I think it will make a difference in their life. I really do. I think it will help them move along much quicker than if they were to not do them. So, so I wrote this, and I hope that people will read it, and I hope it does what it's intended to do, which is to help people through, but also to give them hope, because there's always hope.
Right. Nice. There's always hope. And we will have the link. Marie will have the link to Elena's book here, so that you can find it on her section of our interview series website. So, Elena, thank you so much for being here and sharing your experience and your hope. Appreciate that very much.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm very grateful to be part of it. I love the concept of helping people to see how they can get to a breakthrough through their breakdowns. I love it. And so thank you again for having me be a part of it. Appreciate it.
All right. All righty. Bye now.
Bye-bye.